While we're waiting for everyone to jump in, let's walk through shout outs, gratitude, brevity wins. Shout outs, gratitude, brevity wins. You know where to go. You go to your reactions button, raise your hand. Tell us anything that that you want to share around shout outs, gratitude, or brevity wins. And I'll get us started this morning. I don't know what's in the water in DFW, but you guys have had like 2 people get married in like a month. That is crazy, crazy awesome. So I think Samantha, correct me if I'm wrong, Samantha got married, Allie got married. So Dallas, if you guys want to get married, take a little trip up to Dallas because whatever they got going on over there, it's working. If you don't want to get married, definitely stay away from Dallas because they are really making it happen over there. And then the second shout out that I have is Admin Professionals Day was yesterday, guys. So for everyone on the call, from our virtual professionals all around the country, in the Philippines, to our in-house staff, man, guys, we couldn't do any of this without you guys. Really, really, really grateful for you. Anything that you guys want to shout out this morning? Any brevity wins? Any gratitude that you have, Valencia? Good morning, love.
Good morning, Texas. I want to shout out our ops team. Yes, it was Admin's Day yesterday, and they do a phenomenal job. But our ops and admin staff, not only do they help run our team and keep us all corralled and in order, they also have the time somehow to plan awesome team events. Like today, we have one to go play pickleball. Not sure what it is, but I'm excited about it. So shout out to our ops team that always figures out time to make us better.
Oh, I don't know what pickleball is either. I've actually never played pickleball. So, okay. All right. I see you guys over. That's awesome. Valencia, you got to come back next week and let us know how that went. I don't even know what that is. That's awesome. I'm sure it sounds awesome. I know people do it. I feel like it's almost like a bougie version of like what like people play. I used to play kickball, so pickleball, I don't know. It sounds really bougie. Cool, I'm all about it. Okay, so you guys you don't have a lot of gratitude today. Okay, the goal then is by the end of this power up, I hope you do have some gratitude. Maybe it's something that you're going to implement in your business. So I do have one update for you. I have buyer and seller experiences in Spanish. Who's been waiting for especially the seller experience in Spanish? And I'm super grateful for this because there was a lot of people who worked on this. So I am going to send this out right after Power Up for those of you who like it in email format, but it's also going to be put on the toolkit this morning. Might already be there. So that you're able to see it like for all of Place Nation. Seller experiences in Spanish are really important in the state of Texas because we do serve so many folks who would love to transact in Spanish. So super excited about that. Michaela, anything you want to add to that?
I just had a quick question. Do you know if those are going to be for sale, like on the Play Store, like to buy the actual printed copies?
Yes, if it's not already yet. Okay, so it's not yet up. Sharon already checked. It's not yet up, but it's going to be. Sharon, will you email Era and ask her, ping her, and say, hey, what's the ETA on getting them on the agent store?
One of the things, guys, like just as a FYI, so take a look at them once we post them because they really want everybody, especially those of us who will use them heavily, to make sure that it was translated, that everything kind of sounds and looks good. So this is our chance to look at the digital versions and offer, any quick edits, but then they'll go to print. So it's going to be probably another 30 days before they'll hit the toolkit.
Do you think so? 30 days? That's a long time.
According to Olivia yesterday, she said they wanted to do kind of a soft opening to make sure that they were perfect before they went to print. So maybe less than that, but yeah.
Okay, all right. We will be happy with digital versions for 30 days. And those of you who speak Spanish, I do not speak Spanish. It all looks good to me. Obviously, if it was in Romanian, maybe even Russian, I could help you out. I can't help you out in Spanish. So those of you who do transact in Spanish, you are so needed and valued and appreciated. If you would take a look at those and see, Does this sound right? Did it come across perfectly? And I know a lot of people worked on this who do transact in Spanish. So hopefully any edits are minor, but it is a big deal to get these done. This is a monumental process. Okay, cool, love it. Let's jump in this morning. This morning we are slicing and dicing listings. And here's why I said that. Listings are dicey. What I mean is, when I look at our teams, so just across like a broad range, even national, not even just Texas, and I think about, where do listings come from? And obviously they can come from everywhere, right? But there are particular sets of ways of where they can consistently come from. Number one, it's going to be your sphere and past clients and referrals. Like, we know that, right? However, that also takes some time in the business, right? And it's great. If you've been here 5 years, it makes sense that you would have referrals and past client referrals, sphere referrals, right? You've built a brand, you've built a reputation. Now, what happens if maybe you are less than 5 years in the business and you don't have that yet? That's where, if we think about like what Ben always sets up as the business pie, we talk about, okay, we have our sphere, we have our open houses, we have our prospecting, we have our team leads, we have listing leads, we have other stuff, right? The part that, gosh, man, for whatever reason, we want to graduate out of first is prospecting, isn't it? And the way I know that is I can just look at our stuff and identify that we just don't do a lot in that area. So I found this morning a few people who do a lot in that area, not as a judgment, but as an inspiration. If any of this that you hear today, you're like, gosh, I mean, I like Tiffany. I think I could be Tiffany, or I like Ryan, or I like Brian. Like, these guys are like doing things that I feel like I could do. I think you go for it. So this morning I've got 3 guests, and I'm going to just spotlight you one at a time, and I'll tell you the order. I'll go Tiffany, who we've never had before. Tiffany is from California. We're going to go with Brian, because Brian is in Houston, and we've had Ryan before, and I want Ryan to wrap us up. He is awesome, and you guys will remember him because he wins not just with prospecting, he also wins with open houses and sphere and everything else. Ryan's had the most tenure. So that's my plan, and I'm gonna go ahead and find my people. Tiffany, my dear, you are up. And the reason I think this is fun is Tiffany you're in California. What part of California, Tiffany?
Southern California. So we're technically in the high desert, so Inland Empire / San Bernardino. Okay.
And for her, you guys, you know what happens when you're in California? It's 6:30 in the morning. It is not 8:30 in the morning. Look wonderful. So thank you for doing this for us. So here we go. I'm just going to give you guys some specs on her so that you guys can write this down. And the goal for today is take some notes. Where is it that you want to improve on something, right? We all know listings are gold, right? Like, I don't have to convince anyone why listings are important. And yet I want you guys to hear what normal people, like all of us, and specifically today, I chose folks who are listing like normal properties, like houses, like not anything that's going to take just a wild, like, you just got to be like some like superhuman to take these listings, right? Like, I'm talking like normal houses, people. So Tiffany has been in the business 3 years now. And she's a mom. She actually has 2 daughters. One of them is in college. You don't look old enough for any of that. So I think that's pretty awesome. And she's got some rescue dogs. I know Texas is dog country. We love dogs around here, all kinds of animals. And she loves to travel. So I'm gonna let her kind of tell us about what her business was, and then I'll interject and I'll kind of do a quick interview. So Tiffany, background before real estate, what were you doing?
So I actually spent about 12 years in the corporate world, specifically in the healthcare industry. My last position before I moved into real estate was actually managing about 45 patient advocates for a air ambulance company. And before that, it was just moving my way up through leadership roles, mainly on the business side of the insurance healthcare.
Got it. Got it. So then why real estate? It sounds like you were doing just fine.
Uh, yes, I wasn't doing too bad for myself. I was able to actually buy my house on my own as a single mom. So that was one of my initial goals. I think in the corporate world, I realized at the level that I was moving up to, there's a lot of, excuse my language, BS and, backstabbing and just kind of like cutthroat type thing. I like to work as a team. Like I loved my team. I loved, creating processes for them. I loved being able to lead them and grow them. So in my mind, that was helping people. And I wasn't really able to focus on that like I thought I would. So I think after buying my house, it kind of lit that fire. I mean, who doesn't want to go look at pretty houses and then talk to people and learn about their different experiences all day? So it kind of aligned with what I wanted to do personally and professionally. So helping people, I realized there's unlimited income potential. So going from a salary position where I felt like I was working way more than I, needed to and couldn't directly impact my income right away. Being able to do real estate, I can do that. So I can build wealth. I can work up to my goal, my ultimate goal of having a ton of passive income. So
I love that. That sounds like a few people on the call. I know you guys, so that's awesome. Let me tell you about her last year, right? So last year, Tiffany's business was 47% circle prospecting, you guys. 47%. So out of her, so she's in Southern California, great area to be in, closed 19 transactions, equivalent of probably 1.5 times, what would happen here, right? I mean, that's like 19 transactions in Southern California is really, really good. High five, girlfriend. 67% of her business was sellers, 67. So the mix was 67% sellers, and then the rest was buyers, right? So really solid business. A lot of us like write our business plan for 50-50, right? And then throughout the year, it goes to 40, and then it goes to 30. And then we're like, ooh, are we even going to hit that sometimes? Some of y'all are smiling because at least people I coach, we know. So tell us, like, what would you say is the reason you chose to focus on just actually prospecting? Like that just sounds crazy to a lot of us. Walk us through that.
Yeah. So I think jumping into real estate right away, I also moved to an area just a few years prior that I was not familiar with at all. So my sphere was about 2 hours away, which doesn't seem like a long distance, but most of my family and friends ultimately moved out of state. So I was in a completely new area. So joining my team with Andrea, one of the big things we focused on was circle prospecting. And I wouldn't say that I'm amazing at it. I feel like I've done, a halfway decent job at I refer to it as cold calling. It sounds uglier. But I figure if I'm doing well at it, I'm able to reach way more people this way than I would through an open house, especially through COVID. We weren't allowed to do a lot of open houses. If I'm in my mind halfway decent, then I might as well stick to something that I can achieve results in. It also helped me, being in a new area, to get a lot more familiar with it, and then also be able to build my database in a less organic way.
How, like per year, I guess, do you know how many people you add to your database? Like, do you have any idea? Do you have a guess?
So we kind of shifted the way we maintained. We were previously, we were only focusing on 100 people. So there was a lot of people that we would kind of push out. I would say now we've changed that to where I kind of have my own personal Shark Tank. So I think right now I probably have about, I would say close to 700 people. And I think over the past few months, I've been able to kind of go through those old leads that we originally, they identified maybe they were interested. And I've probably added, I would say just in the past 2 months, because I've really been focusing on that, I've been able to add back, I would say about 30 people, at least from that.
Got it. So walk us through the process with circle prospecting as your lead gen lever. Like, First, what does your schedule look like? Do you have a schedule around this, or is it just whenever you feel like it? Like, walk us through that.
No, if it was whenever I felt like it, I would not be here. I would have quit a long time ago. My first call in the morning is to our expired, so I do that at 8 o'clock. We have our power up at 8:30, and then at 9 o'clock, I just jump right into either the Shark Tank or Mojo and just make phone calls. So we have it broken up by cities out here. So there's probably about 6 or 7 main cities that we focus on. So I'll just kind of jump through those. And I typically do that from 9 to 11.
Okay.
Tuesday, Thursdays, I do try and do 5:30 to 6:30 at night. My daughter actually has roller derby practice during that time. So I'm in the car just trying to do follow-up or more lead gen. And then I try and save at all costs. I try and hold all my appointments to after 1 o'clock. Sometimes I can make an adjustment, or I will make an adjustment to, 11 or 12 if it's maybe a Zoom, as it's easier to stay in the office. But other than that, I try and stick to that after 1 and weekends appointments.
Okay, I just want to make sure everybody got that. So her typical schedule, and I'm thinking this is Monday through Friday type of thing, right?
Yes.
8 a.m. Expires, 8:30 power up, 9 to 11 is the circle prospecting portion, the prospecting cold calling, if you will, portion of your day. Tries to hold appointments after 1, and then Tuesday, Thursday, 5:30 to 6:30 to get people in the afternoon as well. Accurate?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
excellent. And then what do you do? What do you say when you're reaching out? Right? Because I feel like that is such a hard thing, because often we have fears around this. What does it sound like if you're you?
So I have a really basic script. I absolutely personally despise the super long openings and trying to, get all this information out in a matter of 10 seconds. So my script is basically, hey, this is Tiffany with the Bergen Group. Am I speaking to John? Great. I'm reaching out today to find out if you've ever thought about selling your home at 123 Main Street. Or I really like kind of my hot buyer type script. Where, I'll intro the same way, but then, hey, great, I'm working with some well-qualified buyers. They're looking to move to your neighborhood, and we haven't had any luck trying to find them a home. Have you ever considered selling your property? And then I'll kind of probe a little bit. If they're just an absolute no, then I'll ask, if they have any friends or family or neighbors that are looking to buy or sell. Ultimately, I think initially when I first started this, I had a little sticky note that I had on my computer or my wall that just reminded me of my 3 things that I needed to achieve on that phone call. And it was, obviously asking for an appointment. If I couldn't get to the appointment, then their email. So I can add them to my database and send them a market report. And if they weren't willing to do that, then third option was a referral. Or, do you know anybody looking to buy or sell? And if they're open to me texting them my business card or maybe following up with them just, in the future, then I would maybe add them. But those are my 3 main focuses.
Are people like super friendly over there? Like, are they just
No.
ridiculously like awesome and just like so warm, and they just can't wait for you to call them Tiffany?
I wish it was the case. It's funny because I was at the Built How event and I was talking to somebody. I forgot, I think they were from the Midwest, and they're like, oh, everybody's just so friendly out here. And I thought, I wish. If there's a week that doesn't go by and I don't get an FU or something inappropriate, then I haven't done my job. So I'm a little, I guess I have a harder shell for that. I've been on the phones before in a previous life, so I'm okay with people just kind of getting angry, and I look at every no literally as a next opportunity. So it doesn't faze me now.
So how many calls would you say you make a day? Like, do you track that, or do you contact, or what does that look like? Just give us a synopsis. Like, is it like 5 people you talk to a day, 50 people? Like, where are you in that?
Yeah. So ultimately, my true measure of making enough appointments and getting to my goal is really at least 10 conversations a day. Statistically, our goal in 2 hours of cold calling, I'm going to probably make about 250 dials, which is through Mojo. It's the triple dialer. I'll probably contact on a good day about 25 people. And then I should be adding about 10 people a week to my database.
Okay. That makes perfect sense to me. It sounds like you're playing the long game. It sounds like not only are you having short-term success, like, obviously you had, 19 awesome closings, took home 6 figures last year. Congratulations, high five, right?
Thank you.
But you're also playing a long game. Like, this is a career for you. This is not a paycheck for you. Paycheck is the byproduct. Is that accurate?
Yes, and it's taken me, I'm still learning that. I think when you are in this business and you get this really great high, it's easy to kind of back off and say, oh, I can go take a vacation now. Or, so I'm learning to adjust that mindset because, I was salary. So no matter what I did, I got the same pay, right? This is completely different. So it's definitely a shock, but yeah, I have to be consistent. There's no other option for me.
How do you motivate yourself to do that?
Whew. I think continuously trying to learn new things. I love, obviously we have place now for my team. So that's a huge motivator, our team in general, just having our accountability and waking up, I think, every day and pushing myself to remember what my ultimate goal is. I have a list of places that I want to take my family members. My dad who just recently was diagnosed with lung cancer. So, for him, I want to be able to take him to Graceland. Like it's something that's, something that I've always wanted to do, but I haven't. Like, he's where I love Elvis from, right? So I'm like, I have to do that. Nothing can happen to you until I take you. So it's those little things that I literally have a list on my phone that I am like going through. And that's my motivator to get out of bed every day.
Got it. Do you have any other pro tips just like with prospecting as you've learned over the last, not forever, like it's only been 3 years, like it's fairly a short amount of time.
Yeah. Scripts. That's the biggest thing. I feel like you obviously never want to practice in front of the client. So when you're at a listing or a buyer consultation, you never really want to practice in front of them. But circle prospecting is a great way of being able to master those scripts, because when they do ask you a question that you're unsure of because you're newer in the business, it's a great opportunity for you to say, you know what, that's a great reason we should meet. We should definitely meet in person. You can go run to your team lead or somebody else and get the information and then come back. So you at least can kind of get your feet wet in what to say to somebody without there being like this fear of judgment.
I love that. What do you think leads to you ultimately signing these listings? Because it starts off as just like having a quick conversation, circle prospecting most of the time, right? How much follow-up does it take? Are you signing them on the first try? What does all that look like? Actually nailing the listing, which is the ultimate goal, right?
Yeah. It's definitely a lot of follow-up. So if I'm able to get an appointment right away, most people, because I've randomly called them, are not going to be ready to sell tomorrow.
Okay.
There are a handful, especially California. Everybody wants to move to Texas, Idaho, everywhere else but here, right? So some of them are easier. But I feel like my process is, if I make an appointment with them, I have been adding them to my calendar, actually adding them to my calendar, right? So to the invite, and then I send them a copy of that buyer or seller experience. Follow-up is definitely key. So I try not to necessarily remind them the day of, because I want to, I don't want them to have an opportunity to cancel on me. I learned that the hard way, because they will cancel. And then as far as like after the listing appointment, I should say at the listing appointment, it's really important to build that rapport with them. So they get to see you, even if they're not ready today, at some point they most likely will, or maybe they'll know somebody who is ready to buy or sell, and they'll refer you. I've actually gotten, one person has referred 3 different people to me just after a listing appointment, and she still hasn't sold her house. She's still not ready. So it's super important to just be consistent in that follow-up. I also learned that the hard way as well. Not following up.
I love that. Is there anything that you want to leave us with? Like, man, when I look at us, just as a Texas regional team, and then we have individual teams within all of this. We do really well with Sphere. We do really well with open houses, which is awesome, so commendable. We struggle. We're on the struggle bus on the prospecting side. And I don't know if it's business building that you want to leave us with, or what you want to leave us with, but what do you want to leave us with?
I think I think that it's an opportunity or additional lead opportunity, a lead generation opportunity to start doing circle prospecting. And I think ripping the Band-Aid off is probably the worst part. Getting over that fear, getting over the, I would hope people are a lot nicer in Texas. Just by my experience, they have been, but if you are playing a numbers game like we are, and you're able to cast this extremely wide net and talk to as many people as possible in the shortest amount of time as possible, I would say, why not? Even if it winds up giving you only another 4 or 5 deals for the year, that's another 4 or 5 deals that you never would have had. And that 4 or 5 deals is going to turn into probably, 20, after referrals and because you're great at working your sphere and past clients. So that's going to be huge. So I would say, be consistent with it. Don't give up. Most agents out here, especially in our brokerage, they don't cold call anymore. And we're kind of like the top people that do out here, and they give up right away because they don't get that immediate gratification. So again, playing the long game, even if it's an hour a day and that's all you can commit to, an hour a day is more than 0. So
I love that. 4 or 5 deals, like that doesn't sound like a lot of deals. You guys, 4 deals is a potential down payment on a house, right? Like in many areas, and maybe it's not in California and potentially maybe not in Austin, but in a lot of places, it's a new investment property, you guys. Tiffany, you are lovely. We're going to have you back. You are amazing. Thank you so much for this morning. I'm going to, you can look in chat. Will you post your contact information so that people can send you referrals, so that they can plug you into their phone? Because it sounds like you really know what you're talking about. But not only that, you just have a really big heart that's coming across. So we really appreciate you. I'm going to spotlight Brian next. And let's see, Brian Miller, where are you, my friend? I found you. I'm going to go ahead and spotlight you. So Mr. Brian, good morning. There you are.
Morning. Yeah, I got to figure it out.
Houston, Texas. Welcome. Yeah. Welcome. Okay, background. What's your background? Tell us about it.
I started in oil and gas in my career in the 90s and got into oil and gas sales in the early 2000s.
Okay.
Bought a bunch of rental properties and decided I didn't want to be in oil and gas anymore in 2017. Then I got bored, so I went back to oil and gas in 2019, and then COVID hit, made me a realtor.
Okay, I love it. Okay, so then, you do something that I love what you said. You called it grunt work, and I would say that is one way to look at it. The other way I would look at it is, who here has ever said, I'm better in person? All y'all say it. Brian took that to heart, and he is better in person, he says. And so what do? You don't pick up the phone very much. You actually go see them in person through door knocking.
Yes, I don't pick up the phone at all.
Okay, there you go.
I tried it, hated it. You can cuss me out. I'm going to have something to say to you too, rather than hang up. So it's best just if I don't even get on the phone. It's weird how it started, because I started with nothing. I wasn't going to spend any money, didn't have access to Mojo because I wasn't going to pay for marketing. Started out in open houses. I thought about door knocking because it was free, but I didn't like the idea. There was a house actually around the corner from us that was for sale by owner for months. And every time I drove by it, I thought, I'm going to go knock on that door. And I never did. And then one day I saw somebody else's sign out there.
Ouch.
So, yeah. But I met a guy at an open house who wanted to be in a neighborhood where nothing had sold in like a year. So I thought, you know what? I'll just go find the guy a house. And the guy thinks I hung the moon because like on day one, I came back with 2 houses for him to look at. And he bought the first one he looked at. And then he let me list his house.
Yeah.
So then, basically I just kind of got to where I hated it. I still don't love it. But it worked for me. And I had some other buyers that I showed at least 30 or 40 houses to. They never could agree on a house. And I had been in my neighborhood, talked to a guy who was getting ready to sell, but he insisted on using his own realtor. and told the guy about it. He looked it up online. He said, yeah, I want the house. So I called the guy up. I said, I'll bring this guy by, but you can't use your own realtor. So he said, okay. And they walked out of the house just like, people, if they like a house, you can kind of tell, but if they love a house, they're kind of floating through the rooms. That's what this woman did. And when we walked outside, I was like, well, what do y'all think? And they said, well, okay, where do we sign? I was like, hold on. And I knew their budget. It was a little bit above their budget. So I went and talked to the owner, and he said, well, what do they think? I said, they love the house. He said, well, if you were to list my house, what would you list it for? And I told him it was about 45 grand more than they could afford. He said, well, what do they want to pay? I said, well, this is their maximum budget. He said, well, do I have to fix anything? Because he had a heater broken in his pool. They didn't care. He had some sprinklers that were broken because of the freeze. He had some other minor issues. He said, if I can just walk away, I'll take it. So did the deal.
Wow.
And I was looking back because I hated door knocking. I did. I kind of quit last summer. It was really hot, really horrible. Got back into it for a couple months, hated it again. I was never really consistent with it until about a month ago. But looking back, 12 of my soon to be 20 deals have been door knocking. And so
I'm gonna pause.
It has to work.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm gonna pause right there just because y'all, it's like when you're face to face, the beauty of being face to face is even when you're inconsistent, if you got out there that day, that week, you probably are going to meet someone who needs to sell, right? Or you've teamed up one of your buyers to a seller that you met, right? So like, is there a lot of power? Like Brian, you could probably do 50 deals if you wanted to, if you were consistent. But shoot, man, not even being super consistent and 12 out of the 20 already spoken for through door knocking, which is like that just blows my mind right now. Like, I hope it blows your mind a little bit, because everyone who says I'm better in person, you're either that's true, or maybe the other thing might be true. And what it might be is I'm better when things are given to me, when people come to me, right? So let's be real with that, right? Which one is it? Because if you're better in person, then get out there, baby. Like, you have an amazing personality. People like you. Like, go make these connections, right, with these people. But if that's not really real, if it's not that you're better in person, maybe you just like to have people come to you and you are a lead receiver. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Just be real with who you are and then adjust that. Because what did Brian say? He said he doesn't like the phone. But what did he do? He added something in that replaced that. Most of us don't replace. Therefore, like, where are you gonna get your 12 deals? I don't know. What does it sound like? Okay, like if I'm Brian and I go out today, for example, like, what do? Do you have any kind of plan? If you don't, like, what does it look like?
So it depends on the neighborhood. Like, I like my own neighborhood, of course. And then I like another neighborhood south of here. That first buyer of mine, he gave me the great idea that everybody's obsessed with schools here. And there's 3 schools, elementary, junior high, and high school, that everybody wants to be in. And there's not that many houses there. So I've actually sold quite a few there because people are so obsessed with it. Mm-hmm. So I get to know the area. I know why people want to be in a place. I know why people want to be here in my neighborhood. I know why people want to be on the south side of town. And so I use that. And before I go out, things change every week. I know basically the approximate price per square foot of a house: 1 story, 2 story, 1.5 story, with a pool, without a pool, that kind of thing. I know what's available in the market. Like just yesterday, I had a lady, I actually felt bad. She showed up to the door in a wheelchair, and I was like, oh no. But anyway, very nice lady. I said, the only house for sale in y'all's neighborhood is around the corner here. And there's like, the last house I sold a half mile away had 40 people come through the door. So there's like 39 left looking. And she said, yeah, we thought about it. I said, okay, what's your timing? She said, well, we want to wait and see what that other house sells for. So I was like, most people that say they're thinking about it, they're a year out, 6 months out. I was like, you're talking like 2 months. Well, we just want to know what it sells for. And then, we need to go buy a house. So we need someone to help us with that. And so, yeah, she said, come back in a month. I was like, well, just give me your information now. I'll keep in touch. She said, well, that's great. It's always funny because the people that I think I'm bothering the most and weirdest, most awkward situations, sometimes it's the people that actually work out. I knocked on a door a month or so ago of a guy that says I shoot first, call the police later. And he was,
welcome to Texas.
I had like a half-hour conversation with the guy. He's retired. He doesn't know yet where he wants to go. So it may be 6 months, a year, 2 years before he's ready to move, but I'll be in touch with him and I call him every month.
What do you do? Like, okay, so you walk up to the door. First of all, what happens if there's a no soliciting sign? What do you do with that?
I just leave. I mean, if y'all have no soliciting signs on your house, good for you. I get it. I don't want a salesman come to my house either, but I'll answer the door for any salesman because I do that. So I don't care. But yeah, I don't want to bother somebody like that because it already is broadcasting to me that they're not going to be someone I want to talk to. Because people are rude, which does happen, not near as often as on the phone, but it does happen. I just know I don't want to deal with them anyway.
Okay, so then you walk up to the house, no weird signs.
Yeah.
What do you do? Like, what's your process?
I ring the doorbell, kind of step back about 10, 12 feet, basically I step off their porch, even if it's raining, step off the porch. And they come to the door and sometimes, most of the time, people are pretty nice. Hey, how you doing? I'm Brian. I'm with the Ben Kinney team. My script, I don't really have a script. It depends on who I'm talking to, when I'm talking to them. Lately, it's been, I just went under contract on a house about half a mile from here back in the neighborhood. We had 8 offers, went in pending in 6 days, had 30 other people come through the door. There's a lot of people looking in this neighborhood and there's not a lot for sale. So have you thought about selling your home? And there's always a hesitation, but sometimes people, they're hesitant. The more they hesitate, the more they actually are thinking yes. They just don't want to tell me yes. So they kind of hesitate and they're like, well, maybe, but not right now. Maybe next year, maybe 2 years. My kid's in junior high. I want to wait till it gets out of high school. Either way, I'm like, well, great. Would you like to know what your home is worth? And would you like to be able to track the value of your home between now and the time you are ready to sell? And most people say yes. Some people, they're like, well, we get 3 of those a month from our other realtor friends and everything. So, I mean, the conversation goes wherever it goes.
Well, I hope everybody heard that. And if not, I want you to listen to the replay. Guys, make it easy. Like what Brian just shared, like he just said, I sold a house half a mile down the road, got 8 offers, got 7 extra buyers that need a house. There's not a ton of inventory in this neighborhood. Wondering if you're looking to sell. We had, 30 people at our open house, right? Like, I mean, Jesus, like guys, this isn't like, I mean, that sounds real good to me. Like if somebody knocks at my door, that's a whole lot better than like, they're going to sell me solar panels, right? That's good news. I like that. So, okay. What does follow-up look like? Say somebody might have some interest. Like, I know you said you don't like to get on the phone. Do you get on the phone for follow-up?
Sometimes, most of the time, about half the time I don't get their phone number, right? Sometimes people, a lot of times it's basically, yes, I'm thinking, I run into a lot of people that try to sell in 2018. I wasn't in real estate in 2018, but I've been buying properties for years. So I know it was not a good year. We tried, this happened, that happened, and now we're stuck here for a little while, but we don't want to be here forever. People like that, I'm like, okay, offer them market report. And they're like, well, are you going to call me all the time? I said, no. You're just going to get a report every month. So you're not going to try and talk me into selling my home. I'm like, no, you're going to get the report every month and it's going to give you the stats. It's going to tell you what homes are worth. And I said, the best part about that is at the very bottom is my information and I live a mile away. So all you got to do is call me. I'll be here in 5 minutes and we can talk about our next steps. And so because, sometimes I get phone numbers, sometimes I don't. The people who are more seriously thinking about homes or selling their home, I usually get their phone number.
Gotcha.
The good thing is I know where they live. And so I don't need their phone number. I can go knock on their door again.
That's about right. Do you have a schedule at all that you follow? Or like when you how do you look at a week and you're like, I'm going to door knock this week or I'm not going to door knock this week? Like, how do you make that decision?
The best thing that I can do is door knock every day. We went through an incident in our household in March where I didn't work at all for the whole month. It wasn't anything between the two of us. We had a really, really bad month. So got back into it at the end of March. We were in Arizona 2 weeks ago, so didn't do it then. But any other time, basically, again, I'm just now getting back into being consistent. But the numbers that I'm seeing, I should have been consistent for the last year. But yeah, every day. There's no reason not to every day. Even if it's pouring down rain, I can cover my little remarkable here with a bag.
Yeah. Tell me, like, how many people do you talk to per day? Do you have do you know that number? Like what success what does success
Yeah.
look like?
So I put a little check every time somebody comes to the door, and it's been about between 15 and 20 a day come to the door. It's about 1 in 3.
Okay.
And it depends. I'll have a whole street, 20 houses. I'll have 1, 2 people come to the door, and I'll think this neighborhood sucks. And then I'll go around the corner and 6 people in a row answer the door. So it just depends. And out of those people, about 1 in 4, I'll get a market report for. So I'm getting, I don't want to go home without 2, but like Monday I got 6. So it just depends on the day.
Someone's asking how many do you not get a whole day?
I love that. I love that. Hold on me. There's somebody there we go. Okay. So then for those of us who have never door knocked before, it sounds rather scary. Any thoughts and any ideas on that? Anything that you want to leave us with? Any advice on this?
So the 2 hardest things I go through, and I still go through this today, is leaving the house, because I know what I'm about to go do, and I don't like getting started, especially because it's getting warm outside. And number 2 is once I park, I have to talk myself into getting out of the car. And I'll sit there and drink my water and everything. And I have to make myself shut the car off so the air conditioner stops so that I can get out. But once I get and walking up to the first door, it's kind of like muscle memory just kicks back in. And once I've spoken to the first 2 or 3 people, then I'm just kind of in it. And I do get tired, obviously. I try to get 50 doors a day. Sometimes it's 42, sometimes it's 65. Depending on how long people talk. I've talked to somebody 45 minutes before, and that kind of wears me down. So I'll, cut it a few doors short that day. And then, right now I'm knocking a neighborhood that's 95-foot lots and a 40-foot setback, versus I've been in neighborhoods that are 40-foot lots and a 20-foot setback. You're going to hit a lot more doors that way. Not to mention when you ring the doorbell in those little tiny houses, people, no matter where they're at in their house, they're like 12 feet from the door. Versus I go to 5,000 square foot house, it might take people time to get to the door. So if I get 30 in an hour, it's a good hour.
Oh my God, I love it. You know what I love about you, Brian, is you have inconsistently done this and gotten such huge results, right? So it gives people hope, right? That you just got to get out there. You get out there, like the business is there. Like I think of you and I'm like, oh, the business is actually there. If you say you're good with people and you don't want to pick up the phone, what better way than to go pick a neighborhood that you like, that is in a good school zone. And I wrote down that you know the basics of that neighborhood. It's not like you're not just going in blind. So like there's some strategy there. Man, I really like you. So this year, like ultimately, what's your goal? You want to do like 20 deals with this, or what do you want to do?
I'm actually behind the 8 ball because I wanted 3 deals a month. I just hit my 1.5 year mark having my license, and my first 6 months I got nothing. So I started basically a year ago doing deals, and it's been about to close my 20th in 1 year.
Nice job.
So I'm trying to get to at least 3 a month. Again, we've had a couple little hiccups with our business and everything, so a little bit behind the 8 ball right now, but picking it up now. The way I see it, as long as I go out there and do it every day versus doing it once or twice a week before and quitting for a month at a time, obviously that 12 should be able to triple or quadruple. It just may take time. It's a long game. I mean, I met one guy last year who basically came to the door and he said, you know what? I just tried, he sent an email to this other realtor 2 weeks ago. He never got back with me. So, let's just do this. And I signed that evening. That hadn't happened since. I mean, okay, there was a crazy lady who within 24 hours she signed. But other than that, I talked to people for 5 months before I get a listing. The listing that we got pending right now, I met them in January. They called me in mid-March. And the day that I went over there, they signed the listing, they were ready to go. But it's a long game. You're not going to find instant sales. Like at an open house, you can find somebody who wants a house now. But after my last incident with some buyers, I don't know what buyers anymore anyway. And I met them door knocking. And all I really wanted was their listing. But they're trying to get a $600,000 house. You would think that would be easy, and it was not at all. So they get.
I have one follow-up question that came up. Is there a time that you find is better to door knock?
So I don't know if any of y'all watched Austin Keaton's video a couple weeks ago. He actually says statistically there is no better time. However, I don't like going before 10 a.m. You get people in the bathrobes, you get people in towels, people come to the door in their underwear. So and guys usually, but so I try at least after 10 a.m. But what I've been doing lately is about noon to 2. And on cooler days, I can go a little bit longer, but 2 hours is a pretty long day out in the heat. I mean, I was a roughneck when I was younger and I would work 12, 13 hours out in the heat. So back then, if they told me you just got to work 2 hours a day, I probably could have done 3 or 4, but I'm an old man now, so it's a little different.
I love it. I love that you shared with us today. You have made door knocking your one thing, and it's very apparent. And like, gosh, we're so proud to see your success. Will you put your contact information in chat so that people know where to find you in Houston? You're a go-getter. You're real. So appreciated this morning. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you. Cheryl's gonna put my information in. She's the tech person. So.
Yeah. All right. There you go.
I like to refer to like. I'm like the sledgehammer in the family. She's the scalpel. So
I hear that. Awesome. I love it. Thank you so much, Brian.
Thank you.
I think you're muted, Adelina.
I had so much energy too. Golly. Good morning. I was like, why am I not getting anything back? Well, that is why, you guys. When you're muted, people can't hear you. Ryan, good morning. Bellingham, Ryan, good morning. What I love about you is you guys over there, you and Ryan, there's Ryan Randall, which is the one we're talking here, and Ryan Gregg, right? And they're an awesome duo. How long have you guys been in business together?
About 5.5 years.
5.5 years. I love it. High five there. Okay, what'd you do before real estate?
Nothing. I was in college. I was like, I think I've said this story before, so if people have heard it before, I apologize. But I met Jolene when I was 20 at a college career fair, and I became a marketing intern. Did that for a while, was the listing manager for a little while, and then became Ryan's assistant, and then got licensed, and that's pretty much been my story. So pretty much I did some manual labor when I was in college and was a lifeguard in high school. So those are pretty much my 3 jobs.
Well, there you go. And is there a reason that real estate made sense? Like looking back on it now, like other than Jolene talking you into it or Ryan or anybody, like, is there a reason that you've even stayed in it maybe even?
To stay, I couldn't tell you. I think the reason I got into it, I talked to Jolene for 2 reasons. I moved, my dad loved to move like every 3 years. Like we'd stay in the same school. I went to the same school from first grade on, but he bounces around. He buys different cars. He likes to move houses. He just gets grand ideas, I think, sometimes, and moves. So I went to a lot of showings as a kid. So I think that was part of it. And Nate Questenberry here in Bellingham listed his house one time. So that's how I recognized the Ben Kenyon logo. And I was at the career fair with 10 resumes, and I said, I have to get rid of all 10 of these. And I had like 3 left and didn't know what to do with them. And Jolene just happened to be one of them. So that's what ended up happening.
I love that. The interesting thing about you is, and why I wanted to end with you is you guys pretty consistently take at least the listing a month. Like you guys are real consistent with that. Like what's a typical, like, do you know how many listings you guys have taken this quarter? Like in the last, few months?
It'll be 12 after today. We have one going up today. So it's about 3 a month right now.
3 a month. So I wanted to end with you because that's significant, right? And it's not all, they're not all like saying, come list me, like that'd be great. But it's not there yet, right? Even after 5.5 years or whatever. You guys use what? Expires, canceled, and circle prospecting. Is that accurate for you guys?
Yeah, I probably do more of the circle prospecting, and Ryan does a little bit more of the canceled expireds. It just naturally kind of worked out that way. It wasn't like there was this grand plan of, hey, you're going to do the circle prospecting, I'll do the canceled expireds for X, Y, and Z reason. It was just at one point I was probably more canceled expired heavy than he was, and it's come down to we got the wheel of 6, and I knock out the open houses, the circle prospecting, and we both have a pretty good sphere. And he kind of knocks out the agent referral and the cancel expired part of it. And it's just naturally kind of worked out that way for us. It's worked out well.
Why not get rid of circle prospecting or expireds? Because I know a lot of people want to graduate from that first. Why not get rid of that? Why haven't you guys?
We did for a while, to be honest. And what I started to notice, and we did the open house, I did the open house call with you guys probably 2 months ago, was in 2020, there was only 3 months out of the year I could do open houses. And that was a huge part of my business. And it didn't hurt me much in 2020, but in 2021, I'm like, why am I not getting any open house closings? And then I realized, well, you only did an open house for a quarter of the year last year. So I kind of shifted into doing circle prospecting, and I don't know what it's been like in every market, but what I've found now is post-COVID is a lot more people reach out to an agent before they even go to an open house. And I was just like, well, where can I find people that haven't talked to an agent? And I found that was circle prospecting. And that's where I shifted. I definitely am not shifting away from open houses. It's still a huge part of my business. But I just found that, like, how can I meet people that haven't had agents? How can I meet primarily sellers? And how can I really control the activity? And I just kind of gravitated back towards circle prospecting. And I guess when you're 25 and not 20 and new to real estate, circle prospecting gets a little bit easier, because it felt more natural when I started picking the phone back up. I started doing it probably really consistently about a year ago now.
I love that. Okay, so what do you say? Like, it sounds easy enough. So what does that conversation look like? If you got on the phone after this, what does it sound like?
Yeah, so I have two. I primarily call for buyers in mind, or call around listings that just sold, just like I think both of our first speakers really said. If it's just sold, hey, this is Adelina. Yes, this is Adelina. Do you own the house over here on Main Street? Yep, I do. Hey, I was just giving a quick call. We actually just put up a home in your neighborhood. I don't know if you saw the sign, but it ended up getting 8 offers. So I was honestly just calling, since that one did so well, to see if anyone else had thoughts on selling their home this year. And I just kind of get to it as quick as I can.
Since that one did so well. I like it. What about if you're calling for buyers, if you have a buyer?
Yeah. Usually like if I lose, which I hate losing in multiple offer situations, but we all know that we're going to lose eventually, is I find out how many offers that house had. And I try to get a ballpark if the agent will tell me what the house sold over asking price. So it's, same opener. Hey, this is Adelina. Yep, this is Adelina. Okay, great. Do you live on Main Street? Yep. Well, I was given a call. I don't know if you saw the house that was for sale around the corner from me over on 2nd Street, but I had a buyer that unfortunately lost out, and he was actually one of the unfortunate 12 that lost. There's 13 offers on that house. And I was honestly just calling around to see if anyone else was thinking of selling their home, because I got someone that's really motivated and looking in the neighborhood.
I love that. If you're a newer agent, for example, what if somebody was newer and they're like, maybe they don't have a ton of buyers, or maybe they don't have something that they just closed? Like, would you borrow somebody's listing? Yeah.
Absolutely. Definitely the second one's probably easier than the first one, because if you have the first one, like, yeah, come on over, and you don't have a buyer, it's going to be a little harder to get in there. But definitely, I mean, our team, we have a ton of new agents. We probably have, I don't know, 10 agents that are probably less than a year in the business, and they don't take listings all the time. They're still really getting their feet wet. They're in that first, 6 months sometimes, which can be a grind. And, call around ours. I try to tell them, hey, I'm going to call around this one. Don't call around this one today, please. But talk to some of the senior agents on your team and say, hey, I'm trying to circle prospect. I need a place to call. Do you have anything in mind for me? And usually, I'm sure if you talk to two, 3 senior agents in your office, someone will have something for you to call around, because a lot of those senior agents don't want to do the calling of that anyway.
Yeah, well, we have figured that out, hence why we're having this power up.
Yeah.
Do you have a schedule? Do you operate a certain way? How does that look?
Yeah. I don't have like Tiffany, you did a way better job of than I do on really keeping a great schedule. I'm just really dedicated to that 9 to noon window. And I just basically, my goal is make 500 to 750 circle prospecting calls a week. And there's going to be a week, like Brian says, where, hey, maybe you only got to 300 because that, and then there's going to be a week where you can hit 1,000 pretty easily just because you had an easy week. So is really, I try to get to that 500 to 750, and usually that'll end up at least 2 days a week. I'm going to circle prospect 150 people. That should take about hour and a half, depending on how many people pick up. So just trying to hit that every week consistently. And if by the end of the month, I can say, okay, I called about 2,000 in Mojo to 1,500 in Mojo, I'm going to give myself a high five and call it a win for the week or for the month.
I like that. What about obviously you're talking to people, you're adding them to your database. What does follow-up look like? Because obviously, are they all setting appointments like they want to meet with you today in Bellingham? What does that look like in Bellingham?
Yeah, no, and I think that's probably where Ryan and I do better than just about anybody. And that's the one thing that I'll say, you always ask people what's the one takeaway they can have is you did the hard part. You either did the circle prospecting, you called the cancel expireds, you door knocked, you probably got cussed at a couple of times, you probably had some people hang up on you. You did the really shitty part of it. It is don't skimp on your database. And I think a lot of people do that is they might forget to put them in the database. They forget to put a task on them, then don't call them for 2 months. And then we see the sign in their yard. We recognize that address on the MLS that morning. Like, why does that address look familiar to me? Right. Is get them in the database. And the biggest thing is setting reoccurring tasks on all those leads, making sure they're on a market report or listing alert or both, and just consistently calling them and knowing that when you call them, you're not bugging them, is that you're just, providing value and seeing if plans have changed. Because they might, like Brian said, they might be 6 months, a year out. A lot of those leads are. But plans can change, especially with cancel expires. They've already listed their house once. It's not going to take much for them to list again. Circle prospecting, it's a little bit of a long game. It's going to be 3 months to 12 months a lot of the time with these leads.
Okay, so if we were calling expireds, because I know you did that sometimes, what does that sound like? How does that sound different?
Yeah, that was the reason I probably shifted away from that one again was kind of like I shifted from open houses for a specific reason. I shifted from cancel expireds is, when I started 5 years ago, houses that didn't sell 3 years ago, that was a bad market. And then it was a really good market. Well, the market here has been really, really good for 5 years. There's not a lot of cancel expireds. So there's not a lot of old cancel expireds anymore. Like if you try to go back, I'm going to look back 500 to 1500 days cancel expireds in this neighborhood, there might be one. Like there's not a lot. So recently it's been a lot more fresh canceled expireds.
Yeah.
And I think that just sounds the same every time is, hey, we saw your home come across the market this morning is expired. Did you end up getting that sold or what's going on with that home? And it ends up being a really conversation, like more of a conversational thing, as long as people don't hang up on you or it's like, you're the 12th call, you'll get the same objections with cancel expires more than anything. You're the 12th person that's called me today or listing with the same agent. So it's really practicing your scripts and getting over those objections. And I mean, there's so many objections to go through, but the openers are always going to be the same. And that's just, did that home sell or what's the story with that home or what happened with that home?
And are you using objection handlers like that are in the toolkit, or are you using something totally different? Did you make up your own?
Yeah. No, I mean, it's the same things that you probably practice in scripts every day in Texas. It's, like I said, we cancel expireds, you probably get one of the same, I don't know, was there 4 objections you're typically going to get? It's all the same. So yeah, all the stuff that's on the toolkit and the stuff you're practicing in scripts every day is the same thing we're using. It's nothing special. There's no magic. There's never a magic line. It's the same thing. And it's just practicing. And honestly, it comes down to asking the right questions, taking the time to listen to those people. And once you got somebody that's actually willing to talk with you is being confident enough to ask for the appointment and then going out there and doing your job. How
did you build confidence to ask for the appointment?
It's just not caring, to be honest. It's knowing that nobody can punch you through the phone. That if you get told once, I think one thing is a lot of agents will feel defeated, right? Like they call that cancel expired and there's some old guy that just harped on them, called them everything, the book, told them to piss off, hung up on them. It's the worst conversation they're going to have all week. And then they think that everybody when they talk to them is going to be the same. But the next person they're going to call was that really nice family that for some reason their house didn't sell and their agent took crappy iPhone photos and they overpriced them. And they're just hoping somebody calls or they don't even know someone's going to call, but they're just going to be grateful that somebody called and was willing to help them. So it's just not worrying about, if you do get that no, that the next person is not going to say no. It's the same thing with open houses. You ask that person to sign in and they're like, I'm not signing in. I'm not doing that. And then you forget to ask the next person because you're afraid it's going to happen again. And it's just realizing like, what's the worst thing that's going to happen? Is they're going to say no to you and you're going to tuck your tail between your legs for 20 seconds and then move on to the next one? I mean, that's the worst thing that can happen.
It sounds like, and I hope everybody heard him say this, it sounds like he stopped making it about him.
Yeah, it's not about you.
Most times people like it's not even about your feelings. Like guys, like this is like we're serving people, right? Any pro tips as you've done expireds and cancels and circle prospecting over the years, and specifically like really went hard this year? And gosh, congratulations on 3 listings a month. anything pro tip at the end that you feel like, man, wish you guys knew this, or anything you want to leave us with?
Kind of like I said, I think really, really, once you get them in the database is grabbing on those people and just not feeling like you're bothering them, following up with them consistently, getting them on market reports. And then the other thing is, like I said, just having the courage, and anytime someone's willing to meet with you, that's a seller that's maybe not Looney Tunes over the phone, is go meet with them. People are going to work with 80% of the people, or what is it? 80% of the time people work with the first person they meet. And even if they're 6 months out, or they're just kind of curious what the value is, if it's not that big of an issue, and like I said, you don't feel like you're going to, end up on the news going out to their house, go meet with them. Right. Like there's nothing wrong with that. Especially like if you don't have an appointment at 2:00 and there's someone that owns a home within a half an hour of you that's willing to meet, why not? What else are you going to do? Right. Like go home and, like Ben says, go home and watch the Netflix. Like what are you going to do? So just get after it. Like there's no point. Don't be scared. There's nothing wrong that's going to happen with just doing the activity and meeting with people.
I love that, man. I love hearing from you, because I love that you're tenured, meaning you have 5+ years in the business and you haven't felt like you're graduating out, because you know what, the business is always the business, right? It's Sphere open houses, it's prospecting, it's internet leads, it's agent referrals, like all of that. That's the business, you guys. Like there's not this shiny thing out there helping us take listings. It's like you said, like, how can I find the people who haven't talked to an agent yet? How can I find sellers who haven't talked to an agent yet? Boom, wow, right there. Can you put your contact information in chat so that we know where to find you? And you cover Bellingham and like that whole like Pacific Northwest, which is multiple little cities around there. Beautiful part of the country, guys. Beautiful part of the country. Ryan, you are amazing. Thank you for this morning.
Thank you.
So happy. Guys, that is the end of our time this morning. However, next week, I want to remind you, we have Chris Suarez is on not tomorrow, next week. Not at 8:30 though, 11 o'clock our time. He's the only one, him and Ben are the only ones we move our times for. He's going to be speaking on profit. It sounds like a lot of us have goals around having more income, more profit. So that's going to be an interesting conversation. I think it's going to be a good one. I probably have my camera on, it's 11 o'clock, maybe, I'll look nice, etc. But it's so fun to have you guys on. We will see you next week, 11 o'clock. It's going to be in your calendar invite. And I will go ahead and send out the seller and the buyer experiences to everybody in Spanish. Those of you who couldn't help, we are so grateful. And as soon as this recording is live, I will go ahead and post that as well. So you can go back and see, what does door knocking sound like? What does Tiffany's circle prospecting sound like? What does Ryan say, in case you want to pull any of that? And again, it's consistency, guys. If you want to own the listing game, this is how you do it. Thank you guys so much. Have a good one. Thanks, guys, for joining us this morning. See you later.
Thank you.